place where water once flowed, where the fields were green, where once a Nubian queen.
Right, good morning, welcome back. Okay, now if you've got one of these bikes, a Harley Davidson Street Glide or Road Glide, post 2016, so the Rushmore bikes, then you'll probably know already that if you're a lightweight rider, the rear suspension, if you're carrying no weight and no pillion, they're renowned for being harsh and oversprung. No matter how much you back off that preload, it doesn't matter. They'll bounce you out the seat and they ride up the road like a board. It's a well-known thing. Look at the Harley forums and you'll see it's very, very common. Now you can change the suspension, but suspension for these bikes on the aftermarket is insanely expensive. But there is a way you can reduce the stiffness of the rear suspension on these for lightweight riders for virtually peanuts. I'll show you. Right, okay, herein lies the problem. Harley Davidson designed these touring bikes to have a wide range of suspension settings to cope with all possibilities. Now, as it's a touring bike, it's likely that you're going to go touring. It's in the name. In that sense, you might put a pillion on the back, sissy bar, luggage rack on behind, fill up the luggage boxes, and then before you know it, you're carrying 3 times my body weight. I weigh 180 pounds, not much, about a 12 stone rider, and just on my own, just riding a bike like this, it's rigid. It doesn't move at all. I'm not pushing down on this suspension enough to even enter into its range of adjustment. But imagine if you had a 250 pound rider and then a pillion of the same weight and then all the luggage. Well, they can't afford to have the bike bottoming out. That's dangerous. So therefore they have to give you some beefy stiff suspension. Now this asymmetric setup that you see with a big shock with all the adjustment on the left and just a little spring on the right, I'm not going to criticize that or get involved in it. I don't really understand why they've done it. Many people have criticized it on the internet, but that's not the purpose of this video. What I want to show you how to do, if I can, is for a lightweight rider, if you're riding a bike like this, you need to reduce the spring rate of what you've got. So it doesn't matter if you go out there and spend way over £1,000 on Öhlins suspension, the best there is. That suspension is going to be rated and sold for a street glide at the same spring rate as that. Now it'll be better than that. It'll be more supple, it'll be less resilient, it'll have all of the qualities of Öhlins suspension, but the spring rate, the physical amount of force it's pushing upwards to suspend what's on top of it is the same as this. And the problem we have for lightweight riders is you need to reduce that spring rate. So you need to be going to a suspension specialist to get some springs made that are lighter than these. And that's something you can do. And it's mighty expensive, but there's a really simple way to do it. So let's first of all take these off, we'll put them on the bench and I'll show you the solution. Okay, now jump on the bike with nothing underneath it, so the suspension's free to move. Now if I just bounce on it, take a close look at the shocks. Even if I move up onto the pillion seat, there you go, absolutely nothing. Right, now herein lies the solution. Sportster shocks. These are a pair of OEM shocks from a European spec Sportster. That is to say the 330mm long ones. They're between the centres, 330mm. The standard Street Glide shocks, this is the low model, so if you've got that one, they're 300 centre to centre. And that's whether they're on the jack or off the jack. They just don't move, as you saw. 300mm long. These are 330. So they're a bit longer, but when you put them on the bike, it will sag by 30mm and it should end up exactly the same ride height. But because they've already sagged a little bit, it's showing that it's got some movement. Now, I have to admit, I have already test fitted these and it does work. So there's your solution. If you've got a Street Glide that doesn't move on its back suspension, the cheapest, easiest way to remedy that is a pair of shocks from an 883 Sportster. In fact, any Sportster that had 330mm rear suspension. That might be an Iron, a Nightster, the original 883R, any of them with that height. You can put a pair of these on, and here's the point. They're standard fittings. They fit exactly the same. They're totally interchangeable. They fit straight on the bike, because I've checked. And of course, they're OEM quality, which means that they're going to work. They're going to last. They're not going to be some cheap thing made in China. They're proper, genuine Harley Davidson Sportster shocks. And here's the thing with these. I bought these on eBay for £50, and they're absolutely brand new. There's not a mark on them. If you went to get any set of shocks aftermarket from anywhere, you'd pay 3 or 4 times that. So easily, £50, set of second-hand Sportster shocks. Let's put them on. I'll first of all show you the ride height's the same, and then we'll see if it goes up and down, as it should. Right, now hopefully, as you saw, dropping it off the jack, that sagged by the 30mm that they were longer than the factory stuff. And measuring them now in their resting position with no boxes on, that is 300mm. So we've got the same ride height exactly as I had before. But as you saw, sitting on it, bouncing up and down, it didn't move. Now they're fitted. Let's see if they move. Now that is proper suspension movement. Okay, now, I don't want to comment, as I said, or court too much criticism of the asymmetric system that Harley put on. I'm quite sure that being a savvy company, corporately aware of things like lawsuits, they're not going to make suspension that's not safe. And also, for any of those who believe that putting a thick shock one side and a tiny spring the other side causes flex in the swing arm, perhaps take a look at the swing arm on these Rushmore bikes. They're like that. They're absolutely like roof girders. They're massive and box section and really strong, so I'm quite sure it's all okay. The purpose of this video was quite simply to say that they are oversprung for a lightweight rider like myself carrying no touring luggage. Now these, well, as you can see, they're not. They work extremely well. Now I have to admit a little trick here. I have actually had these fitted for about 50 miles just to check it out, to make sure that what I'm saying to you today, it works. And indeed, it does work. These work just fine. Now personally, I've got these set up on the lowest of the 3 preload settings. So I've got 2 settings more that I can ratchet those up to make them stiffer and more resilient. But bouncing up and down on that as hard as I cannot get them to bottom out. And that's what it's all about. As long as they don't bottom out on the bump stops, they're absolutely safe. And again, they're genuine Harley Davidson shocks. And I reckon there's 1 million pairs of these in attics, sheds and lofts around the world. So if you don't have any lurking around under your bench, then look on eBay and places like that. They'll be about £50 to buy, cheap as chips, and a great solution to a rather oversprung bike. If you're going to ride it solo with no luggage, that's a great way to make it move up and down and actually give you some luxury riding. So it stands with its name, Glide, and it does actually glide up the road way better now than it used to. I'm really happy with that. If you want to do it, it will save you an absolute fortune. If you want to buy really posh fancy suspension and have it all tuned, you can do that. Or you can spend £50 on some Sportster shocks and bolt them on. There we are. Thank you for watching. Take it easy, ride safe. We'll see you next time for a Q&A with Mr. Dyson.
I'm in everyone's head. And when he blackened the ground,